The language of deceit, notes and extracts. Prelude. The foundational reasoning of our modern Western education system and its practical application in society was outlined by Alexander James Ingalls, 1879 to 1924, who was assistant to the Professor of Education at Harvard University. This outline was entitled Principles of Secondary Education and was published in 1918. We will get to the publication, but first, the foundations of secondary education. In the 1922 edition of Public Education in the United States, Elwood P. Cubberley, Professor of Education at Stanford Junior University, wrote, "Our schools are, in a sense, factories in which the raw products, children, are to be shaped and fashioned into products to meet the various demands of life. The specifications for manufacturing come from the demands of 20th century civilization, and it is the business of the school to build its pupils according to the specifications laid down." Little of relevance has changed in the last 100 years. In exactly the same way that news media, not long after the invention of the printing press, was inserted into society as a sturdy fourth column that eventually allowed the powers that be to maintain a control over the status quo in society, modern education, in a not too dissimilar fashion, was planned to eventually become a fifth column that, once driven into place, would cement a perfectly formed new order in the world that, it was hoped, by many social elites would be irreversible. We are now extremely close to this ultimate multi-generational goal, or, as a result of recent events, you could possibly argue that perhaps we are already here. It was a centuries-old plan, regularly updated as technology advanced, that the class-based royal system of England, which itself had successfully imported military Prussian models and socio-Indian caste hierarchy, and that had so well fed and watered the first truly modern feudal-based global empire, would be slid slowly and carefully into all societies with traditions of liberty or religious freedoms. A thinly disguised veil of social principles would gradually divide the students against each other, so that among friends, children would find only enemies and constant conflict. It would turn the science of discovery into the art of control. Work would become a more effective discipline than religion. Education would be reduced to the binary transfer of information. It would become a perfect model of divide and conquer in the great tradition of Julius Caesar, where state ethics, out of the sight of the parents, could interfere in the development of young minds without the barrier of intergenerational family values or core moral foundations. Children outside of the nuclear family and surrounded only by other children of similar social background could be trained from as young an age as possible to supervise each other, and would remain limited, powerless, and ignorant in some kind of dystopian never-never land, where they truly never would grow up. They would be lost to the future and the past, and left without the psychological and intellectual resources to make any meaningful change to the order of society. Fearful of reprisals and unsure of each unsteady step, the pupils would be taught to await instruction rather than develop their own natural instinct to explore the world around them. Under such conditions, they would become forever dependent on handouts from the state, who would come over time to incrementally replace the role of parents. As instruction replaced learning, the people would be taught to police each other under the guise of ever-increasing fairness or correctness. All too soon, this concept and the models built around it would be exported all over the world. Vertical learning environments would be abolished and replaced with horizontal, inconsequential interactions, and the children would become incomplete humans who would be hidden from harsh realities of life and the principle of a true balanced family by a fog of falsely reasoned rewards, high walls, loud bells, obtrusive distractions, absent responsibility, senseless inactivity, pointless goals, meaningless reorganization, arbitrary rules, and a constant repetition of the need for obedience. Alongside this, in due time, the principal interactive ratios of society had already changed, and by the mid-20th century, we find one adult to be commonly surrounded by 25 children, whereas just a little more than 1 century previous, the standard had regularly been 4 adults in the vicinity of 1 child. Through the exercise of behavior control and perception management, all of society's demographics were planned to be altered. City landscapes, family size, sexual orientation, logical thinking, religious wisdom, relative value, energy supply, human contact, diet, and finally morals would be replaced by state ethics. Such a cloud or fog could then be easily manipulated to mask an uneven redistribution of resources. Surreptitiously, somebody has stolen our dreams of learning in freedom, about liberty, through self-discovery, from right under our noses. So how did this thief creep up on us? Did he come in the night when we were sleeping? Did he pick our pocket as he walked past? Or was he always there, disguised as a friend, pretending to help, while just waiting for an opportune moment? In essence, we simply let him in. We bought into the absurdity that some centralized, distant group of well-meaning people cared enough about our own lives to manage everything for us. As usual, everything that sounds too good to be true is too good to be true. Nothing is free, or ever should be, as the price we pay for ignoring the cost is, over time, one of great individual loss. The language of deceit. Notes and extracts.